a busy morning here in Manchester, and there, right across the street, is the Northshire bookstore. I will be heading over there very soon. But first, a treat that is almost as good as Booktopia. And that is, here's the little nice pretty main street. And there it is. No, not pizza and pasta for breakfast, but up for breakfast. My favorite breakfast spot may be anywhere, and aptly named, as you can see, because you have to go up. I'm meeting a couple of Booktopia friends here. Can't wait to see them. And here we go. Northshire bookstore. We wait all year for this. It's a wonderful bookstore. Besides this fabulous event that they put on, it's just a great bookstore.
We were hoping you would be here.
Oh yeah, Sharon and I are here. We saw Jeff already.
Oh, how do you do? Very nice to meet you. I haven't started yet. Intriguing. It is. Are you Nathan or Richard? Richard. Booktopia is fun.
Not Dane magazine. Say R.
Oh, good. Well, that makes me feel better. I don't want to. But there's some stories I missed. Damn it! I'll tell them dinner. I wish you really good. That's our good. Oh, well, thank you so much.
And I'm pretty wiped out at this point. It's 3 in the afternoon. I'm usually asleep by now. I usually take my nap around 1 or 2. But I really wanted to see the first of the author talks. They're scheduled throughout the next 2 days so that you can pick and choose which ones you want to go to. I'm very glad I did go to this. It was Sarah Strohmeyer, author of We Love to Entertain, a very entertaining thriller, and she was very entertaining. She really gave a great talk, lots of funny stories, and really enjoyable. But now I am completely out of energy, so I'm going to go back to our guest house and take a nap so that I'm ready for the big event tonight, dinner, which includes a Yankee book swap and book trivia. It's a lot of fun. And it's dinner with both the attendees and the authors all together. So it's a chance to get to know the authors and the other attendees better as well. So really looking forward to that. It's been great today seeing everyone again. A lot of the same people come back year after year, so that's a lot of fun. Though, you know, new people are always welcome. I just met a couple of new people, and also met someone who turns out she's the cousin of my friend's husband. So, you know, always weird connections, but it's just, you know, spending a whole weekend just hanging out with book people. So much fun. But now I need to go and take a nap. Saturday morning, I am up and out. I was exhausted last night. It was a lot of fun, but I was really wiped out. But I got a good night's sleep and I'm ready for another day. We start earlier today, which I thought I might have trouble with. I'm doing okay so far. I'm gonna grab a quick breakfast. No time today for up for breakfast. So I'm gonna grab a quick bite to eat here at Charlie's Coffee Shop.
Read is actually is maybe the only section not set in those two places, which is set in Montauk on Long Island, part of the Hamptons. So I'll set it up a little bit. Last time I didn't sort of summarize the book much before I started reading, so then I did so after. It makes more sense to do it before. The novel is about a family who live in Vermont who are discover that they are the guardians of their nephew, who's 17 years old, whose parents have been suddenly and tragically killed in a car accident.
Just a quick break in between authors, so just walking around the children's section. They have an amazing children's section. In fact, this entire floor is devoted to kids. Games and toys. Oh, I see a couple of graphic novels I've been wanting to read.
And at one point I kind of shattered it. It was linear. And then reorganized it in this way, and that kind of was like, this is correct. Like, this is the correct version of this. Yeah, so that was 5 years, and then I had published during that time in 2016 a short story in One Story magazine called Mold, and an agent tweeted about it, and so I DM'd him. And I just said, thank you for, you know, tweeting about my story. And do you have a novel? I said, well, I have a thing.
He heard what had happened. He got in the van. And started driving around looking for him. Yeah, and then
Had lunch, and then another great author talk from Annie Hartnett. Her book, Unlikely Animals, was probably my favorite of Booktopia this year. Really loved it. It's got so much heart and so much humor. Just really enjoyed it. And she was great. Her talk was just wonderful. So I am pretty wiped out now. Just came back to the guest house, gonna have a nap. My mom went to another author talk, and then we're meeting some friends for dinner. So I am back home now, and I just wanted to give you a very quick overview of which books and authors were at Booktopia. These are the books that the booksellers at Northshire Bookstore chose for this year's Booktopia, and all of the authors were present this weekend. First up, we have The East Indian, which was just released last week, so I haven't read it yet. I bought this copy while I was up at Northshire last week. My mother did read it. She squeezed it in, was reading like crazy in the evenings while we were up there. And this was her favorite book of the whole bunch. The author is Brinda Chari. This is historical fiction set in Virginia in 1635, so before the United States was the United States. And it is about a young East Indian man I think he's 16 as it starts, who has traveled a great distance to migrate from India to Virginia. Based on what I heard about it, it's all about his experiences, not fitting in, being different than everyone around him. So my mom said it was great. This was her favorite. And the author gave great talk. Next up was my favorite, Unlikely Animals by Annie Hartnett. There is a lot packed into this book. For starters, it is narrated by the members of a small town cemetery, the dead people, going back centuries. It's set in a small town in New Hampshire. It's about a young woman named Emma who's 22 and has just returned back home. She was supposed to be starting med school, and she hadn't told her parents that she did not. So she's come back home. Her father's very ill. That's the main reason she's back home, but she's also trying to figure out what to do with her life. Her brother, who's also an adult, is living with their parents as well. He's just come out of his second stint in rehab, so this family has a lot going on, but also this town has a lot going on. The opioid epidemic has really affected them. They're dealing with addiction. One of their most prominent town members is on trial for being a drug dealer. There's all sorts of things going on here. There are also ghosts and hallucinations and lots of animals, both real and hallucinated. This is a very warm-hearted book that is also hilariously funny. Yes, it deals with some difficult topics like addiction and terminal illness, but I was laughing out loud through the whole thing, and the author was just delightful at Booktopia. So that's Unlikely Animals by Annie Hartnett. Next up was a book that I didn't have a chance to read before Booktopia. It is In Our Shoes by Brianna Holt. This one came out in April. This is, the author explained it as a combination of nonfiction and memoir, which of course is nonfiction. So it is all about her own experiences as a Black woman, but also she said she talked and interviewed over 50 other Black women and also integrated a lot of facts and figures and statistics and studies into the book as well. So it's not just her experiences, it's this whole amalgamation of experiences. It sounds wonderful. She gave a great talk, and I'm really looking forward to reading that. Next up, The Love Scribe by Amy Meyerson. This is magical realism, which isn't always my thing, really. But I did end up enjoying it. I trusted in the booksellers at Northshire because they always choose great books. So this is about a woman who discovers that she has the ability to write stories that make people fall in love. So she discovers this when a story she's written helps her friend fall in love, and then her friend passes that story along to her sister and to other friends, and they all fall in love. So I wasn't all that into that premise at first, but then things start to go wrong and get a little more complex, and that's when I started to find it more interesting. So it is about love, but also about life. It's about death and grieving. It's about living life. So I enjoyed The Love Scribe by Amy Meyerson. Brother and Sister Enter the Forest by Richard Mirabella. So really enjoyed listening to Richard at Booktopia. I enjoyed this book very much. I read it ahead of time. It is very engrossing. It is indeed about a brother and a sister. So it is digging deep into sibling relationships, both as teenagers and as adults. But it's also looking at the brother here, Justin, gets a lot of the focus because he experienced a horrible trauma when he was a teenager that affected not only him, but his sister Willa and his mother. And this trauma that Justin experienced affects him the rest of his life. So that is what the book's about. It is indeed about some heavy subjects like trauma. Justin is gay, and the trauma was related to that. There are some difficult things here, but I found it really engrossing. During the author discussions, there were some really in-depth discussions around sibling relationships and trauma and family. Lots of emotional depth to this novel, and it was widely liked. And as I said, you know, if you're in a book group, this would be a great one because at Booktopia we had some amazing discussions about this. Next up, a couple of thrillers. First, A Flaw in the Design by Nathan Oates. This is kind of a literary suspense novel, and it's about a teenage boy who goes to live with his aunt and uncle and their 2 daughters. His parents have just been killed. He is from a very, very wealthy, privileged upbringing in New York City. His aunt and uncle and their family live in Vermont, a very different kind of world. They haven't seen Matthew, the teenager, since he was, I think, 11 years old. But at that time, they got the impression that he was seriously troubled, perhaps even a psychopath. So now he's come to live with them. And the uncle in particular, Gil, is very concerned about his girls and their safety. And the tension that runs through this novel And this tension starts from the very first pages. Is Matthew actually a psychopath? Is the family in danger? Or did he grow out of those strange behaviors? And is the uncle paranoid and giving in too much to his anxieties? That is the tension that runs through this. I will tell you it's got kind of an ambiguous ending. The author did say he's working on a second novel, which everybody was really excited to hear. Because this is literary suspense, there is, again, a lot of emotional depth here, a lot to dig into. I really loved this book. I'm going to pass it on to my husband to read. And my mom really loved it as well, as did most of the other people at Booktopia. And the author gave some wonderful talks. And we had another thriller, We Love to Entertain by Sarah Strohmeyer. This is more kind of classic thriller. It is set in Vermont. The setting is a reality show, a home renovation show, where a couple has bought some land really cheap in Vermont from a tax sale, somebody that didn't pay their taxes. They're on this reality show, renovating this house, trying to get the most votes so that they will win the prize and get reimbursed for all they spent on this house. And early on in the story, the couple maybe goes missing. They got married, live streamed their wedding, and they've been busy, they've been very present on social media during the show, and all of a sudden they're gone. And they told their assistant, a young woman who is from Vermont, that, or the husband told the assistant that he was going to take his wife on a surprise impromptu honeymoon up to Quebec. Now the problem is they're a week away from the big reveal on the show. This is like go time on the show, and the producers are really upset that they're not there. And as time goes on, everyone starts to wonder, did they really go away on a vacation, or is there something more sinister going on? So lots of suspense here. Also some thoughtful stuff about social media and reality TV and, celebrity in our modern world. The author was probably the most entertaining author that we had at Booktopia. Great sense of humor, very funny. I had never heard of her before, but she's written, I think this was her 17th book. Lots here to be entertained with. Next is Glassworks by Olivia Wolfgang Smith. This book was actually not out yet, so most of us hadn't read it. A few people had been able to get advance copies. It's actually being released this week, May 16th. So I don't know a lot about it yet. The author described it as a queer novel following a family across 4 generations. So she said it is very much about the family dynamics and what happens over time with this family. And finally, last up, ironically, also about glass, The Glass Chateau by Stephen Kiernan. Stephen is a repeat Booktopian. He's the author of The Baker's Secret, and this book is not out until June 20th. This is a historical novel set just after World War II in France, which has been, horribly damaged during the war, about a man who was an assassin during the war, who's walking through France trying to recover and heal, encountering French citizens who are also trying to heal. It is about glass making, and particularly stained glass, and replacing some of the beautiful stained glass that has been bombed out of cathedral windows. That's all I know. It comes out next month. So those were the 9 Booktopia authors and their books. The ones that I read were all excellent. The booksellers at Northshire Bookstore have a great history of choosing excellent books for Booktopia.